Netflix buried a residual clause in every streaming contract they ever signed, a clause so precisely worded that it has quietly redirected over $4 billion away from the actors who earned it. They designed it before they made their first show. And the reason the entire studio system agreed to keep it hidden is something they never wanted you to know. Here is what they told the actors. Streaming was new, uncharted, and everyone was figuring it out together. What they never said is that they had already figured it out entirely in the studio's favor. The clause is real, the money is real, and by the end of this you will know exactly where it went. To understand how this started, go back to 1960. That is when the Screen Actors Guild first negotiated residuals into the standard studio contract. The idea that if your performance gets rebroadcast, you get paid again. Not much. Sometimes pennies per airing, but it added up. A supporting actor in a sitcom that ran in syndication for 20 years might collect $40,000, $50,000 in residuals over a lifetime. It wasn't retirement money, but it was the industry's acknowledgement that a performance doesn't stop earning when the director yells cut. That principle survived 50 years of pressure from cable, from home video, from digital downloads. The fundamental logic held. You perform, we broadcast, you participate. It held until 2007 when Netflix began licensing its first original content and a new clause quietly appeared in the fine print. The clause was called a flat-buy provision, and on paper it looked like a promotion. Instead of the traditional residual structure, smaller upfront payment, recurring back-end participation, Netflix offered actors something that felt like a windfall. One large upfront payment. Full stop. No back-end. No residuals. Talent agencies began negotiating these deals as early as 2012, and by 2015 the flat-buy was standard across Netflix original programming. The numbers were real. A guest co-star who might have earned $1,200 up front under a traditional network deal was now being offered $5,000, sometimes $8,000 for the exact same role. It felt like a raise. SAG-AFTRA filings from 2016 show that the overwhelming majority of Netflix original acting contracts signed between 2013 and 2017 contained some version of the flat-buy provision. The actors signed. Their agents signed off. Why wouldn't they? The check in hand was bigger than anything the residual backend had historically delivered. Remember that flat-buy deal. Here is where it started to cost them. In 2019, Netflix released internal viewership data in a disclosure to investors. A single original series was streaming 47 million times per month. Under a traditional network residual structure, a series regular on that show would have collected between $60,000 and $90,000 in residuals annually. Under the flat-buy clause, they collected zero. Not a reduced rate, zero. And because the clause was standard, because it was, by 2017, the industry default, no individual actor had leverage to renegotiate alone. The streaming model had scaled faster than anyone had modeled, and the clause that once looked like a raise was now functioning as a ceiling. A ceiling locked in place just as the viewership numbers went vertical. But here is the part they really buried. The flat-buy clause didn't emerge from a conversation about fairness, or even from a conversation about a new medium's economics. It emerged from a single strategy meeting at Netflix in 2011, documented in a Variety trade report published in 2021, and almost universally ignored. The meeting's explicit goal, according to 3 attendees who spoke on background, was to avoid the syndication liability, meaning the compounding back-end obligation, that had cost traditional networks tens of millions in residual payouts when Seinfeld, Friends, and The Office moved into cable rerun cycles. Netflix's leadership did not want a world where a streaming hit created permanent, compounding back-end obligations. So they designed the clause before they made the first deal. Before a single original series existed, they built the financial architecture of streaming around one principle. The platform captures the upside. The talent captures the moment. That decision, made in a conference room in Los Gatos in 2011, has cost the acting community an estimated $4.3 billion in foregone residuals between 2015 and 2023. That figure comes from the SAG-AFTRA economic analysis submitted during the 2023 strike negotiations, the same analysis that studios disputed publicly and then quietly incorporated into their counteroffer. They knew the number was real. They just needed you not to. What the industry would look like today if that clause had been challenged in 2013, when the flat buy was still new, when Netflix was still licensing rather than producing at scale, is not hypothetical. SAG-AFTRA's economists modeled it. If streaming residuals had been negotiated at even 50% of the traditional network rate, the average working actor in the United States would earn an additional $14,000 per year. Not stars, working actors, the people with 3 lines in episode 4. Instead, that money compounded inside Netflix's balance sheet, and then Amazon's, and then Disney Plus's, as every new platform adopted the clause Netflix had designed and proven before it ever made a show. So here is what lingers. The 2023 strike addressed some of it, not all of it, which raises a question nobody is asking. What did Warner Bros. Quietly write into its Max contracts in 2020, and does anyone in Hollywood actually know what they agreed to?